Hi, everybody. Just wanted to hop on here and talk about the podcast, The Lifecoach School. It is probably my number one favorite podcast that I listen to. Such amazing information. I highly recommend that you find it, and any episode you land on, that's fantastic. Today I wanted to talk about episode 295, where Brooke talks about the concept of pain now or later. I grew up with this idea that life was about avoiding pain. Like if you had a good life, there was no pain in it. And I always thought that something was wrong if I was experiencing emotional pain, or the other way I thought about it was I've had enough pain up until this point in my life, so I'm good. I've had my allotment of pain, so the rest of my life should be relatively pain-free. That's just simply not true. And something that she talks a lot about is how life is 50-50. Life is part happy, part sad. Life is part sweet and part bitter. Life is part joy, part sorrow. I mean, life is just 50-50. And it has really helped me to understand that just because life is hard doesn't mean there's something wrong going on. It is how it is supposed to be. We're human, and pain is part of the human experience, just as happiness and joy is part of the human experience. And the other concept is that if we don't know pain, how can we know joy? If we don't know sorrow, how can we know joy? If we don't know sad, how do we know what happy is? So once again, life is 50-50, and just to realize that is just how it is. And it's like that for everybody. Nobody escapes that. But in this particular episode, she was talking about choosing to deal with pain now as opposed to, putting it off and dealing with it down the road. And something that I guess I've never understood before the last few years when I've been doing a lot of studying, is that as children, we learn to numb because we need to. It's necessary for us to deal with childhood trauma. And what she says here is numbing pain is a coping mechanism we develop as children. It is amazing how we as children can survive by disassociating, by numbing out, and avoiding the pain we don't know how to process at such a young age. You think things happen to us as children that we don't have the cognitive skills to deal with. We're just not developed enough yet. And so numbing, it's kind of innate in us to numb. As young children, we are incapable of processing pain in a way that serves us. We don't have the cognitive ability to look at what we are thinking. But as we get older, we continue to do that, and it does not serve us anymore. As adults, we are able to process that pain and to work through the pain, but we choose to numb it because that's what we've always done. Food, alcohol, relationship drama are all things we use to numb. This postpones or delays the pain, but it is still there. As children, many times we have to postpone and process. As adults, if we've had circumstances that cause abandonment or fear-based thinking. I know in my life there were things that happened that I had no idea how to deal with. I did not have the capability to do that. But if the same thing happened to me today, I absolutely would be able to process through, and it would be a very different experience for me. So signs of postponing pain. When we feel like things aren't affecting us, like, we're not feeling it. Or, we just are staying super, super busy. Pain that is unprocessed must be continuously avoided, and it is exhausting. It takes up so much mental space. We think it's not there, but it's in the background, running continually, and it's being stuffed, and it takes energy. It actually takes physical and mental energy to keep the pain at bay. It is exhausting because we are constantly trying to outrun our emotional life. But as we all know, it sneaks through. And I have definitely experienced this. She says a sign that you are doing that is you have very complicated and overreactions to simple things in your life. Reactions that are out of context. Something small happens and you explode. Think about road rage. Think about how many people, just have road rage that is out of control. So what Brooke, and it's Brooke Castillo, what she says is always choose pain now when possible. It is a normal part of life and it is necessary. It reveals our thinking to us, and it is part of being a human that is fully alive. So when we buffer against pain, we accumulate pain. So instead of pain coming and being processed and we move through it, when we are numbing and buffering, we're just building and building and building and building and adding to, the pain. It's like it sums up. I found this extremely interesting and very thought-provoking. She said, life expands when we increase our capacity to process pain and be uncomfortable. When you aren't afraid of pain, you are willing to do so much more with your life. And, some of the pain that she's talking about is embarrassment and humiliation and failure. And, what if I get on stage and talk to these, this group of people and I fail miserably? Well, that's a painful experience. But if we are willing to experience pain and work through it, we are going to be willing to do those hard things. When you avoid pain, your life becomes so much smaller because you don't want to do or go after that thing at the risk of failing or of being rejected. When you decide to feel pain instead of numbing it, it eventually becomes softer. It feels true and purposeful, like there's a reason for it. And, she's not talking about just going out and being crazy and, doing painful things for the sake of feeling pain. But it's more about avoiding it and allowing the fear of that to control your choices and what you do. I think of the pain that comes when we lose a loved one. How many people become alcoholics, or they eat to ease that pain, and or they just postpone it, and they can they work and work and work, and they don't ever deal with that loss, as opposed to every day just letting it come, letting it kind of take hold, and feeling it and dealing with it and knowing that you're going to come out on the other side. I liked this scenario. So I grew up with a mother who's a nurse, and she did not allow us to have fits at the doctor's office, because I'm sure she had dealt with many children who, were berserk. And so the way that it worked with us when we would go to the doctor to get a shot or whatever is, it was, hey, we will go get an ice cream or something special after. It's going to hurt, But if you behave, and that probably wasn't a great term to use, but you know, if you don't lose your shit at the doctor's office, you know, we're gonna go get something special after. And so I always knew it was going to hurt. Nobody likes shots. But, you know, I give my mom a lot of credit for keeping it what it is. It's just a shot. It's just a needle. You're going to be okay. And so the way Brooke explained it here, she was like, it's like going to the doctor's office and getting a shot. You know, come with a needle, you take a deep breath, you blow your eyes, you breathe through it, and it's done. And it hurt. And you know what? A tear might slip out. That's okay. But it is a completely different experience than if you're in the doctor's office and you know, start to lose control and you start to hyperventilate a little bit. And then you're fighting against the doctor and the needle because they're not just putting that needle in your arm, and then they're trying to keep it steady. And then it's going a little deeper and it's moving around and it's hurting. And all of a sudden this shot has become this huge event that has become traumatizing. You know, and they're holding you down and you're fighting and screaming, and, you know, it just has moved from something painful to something that has blown up into this traumatizing event. A little funny story, my daughter Brooke, when she was, I don't know, probably kindergarten, first grade, I don't remember shot schedules, but we had taken her, I had to take her for some immunizations, and for some reason I thought it was like one shot. Well, it was 3 shots. And I had told her before we got there, honey, it's just, you know, because she was a little nervous. I'm like, honey, it's just 1 shot. Well, then the nurse came in and said it was 3. I'm like, oh, shoot. But she was so brave. Well, they get done. And, you know, she did. She was great, but she cried a little bit. And they walked out of the office. And the minute that door closed, she was like, you lied to me. You told me it was only 3 shots. I am calling Dad right now. And all I could do was just hand her the phone and be like, go ahead. Call your dad and tell on me. Oh my gosh, it was really funny. So, you know, another example that she gives, and I'm going to wrap up here, is, you know, how so many of us postpone these projects. Or, you know, I remember in college, I hated, or high school and college, I hated writing papers. And I would postpone and postpone and postpone. Well, if I had just done the research, sat down, gotten it all done, yeah, it's somewhat painful to do that, but it would have been done. But no, I would stretch it out, you know, until the very last minute. Well, then for the weeks leading up to that, it's this constant running in the back of my mind, this anxiety that I have to get this done, And then I have the pain of writing the paper. Whereas if I would have just gotten it done, dealt with it right then, you know, we would have been done. So she goes through ways to manage the pain. I will let you check that out on her podcast. Once again, the Life Coach School, episode 295, Pain Now or Later. But I encourage you to listen to it. It certainly, she has a lot of good stuff to say that I did not get into. So I hope you go check it out and let me know what you think. All right, bye guys.